At the age of 14 she was sent to Auschwitz. Even though she expected the worst every day, she devoted her remaining time to helping others. She agreed to run a secret library in the camp, which, especially for the youngest children, was supposed to give the illusion of a normal life. Dita Kraus, née Poliakowa, was born in Prague in 1929. Her family was secular, her father was a socialist. Little was spoken of religion at home, and it was not until she was 10 that she encountered the word Jew for the first time. Moreover, when Nazi Germany first occupied her homeland and then launched World War II, she learned that in the eyes of the new authorities, she too was Jewish. The road to hell. When I was 10 years old, I had to give up all my desires and plans, she recalled in an interview with the Jerusalem Post. Her father lost his job, and in 1942 the whole family was deported to the Theresienstadt ghetto. This was only the starting point of a terrible journey. The following year, Dita and her relatives were sent to Auschwitz-Birkenau. The 14-year-old was lucky not to be sent straight to the gas chamber. She ended up in the family camp, a section of Auschwitz-Birkenau where, for reasons still not fully known, the Nazis kept selected families alive and allowed mothers to continue caring for their offspring. A strange and surprising place. The family camp even set up a makeshift kindergarten for the youngest prisoners, run by Zionist and former athlete Frady Hirsch. In the words of one of the prisoners, it was a strange and surprising place. Hunger and terrible sanitary conditions prevailed in the family camp. Adults were forced to do slave labor beyond their strength. But the Germans allowed the Jews sent there to create a modest substitute for a normal life for the children. The smallest library in the world. The guardians were barely in their 20s. One of them asked 14-year-old Dita to help him. She was given a very unusual assignment. Along with another boy, I became a librarian. I was entrusted with taking care of some random books that had gotten into the camp in the prisoners' luggage. Said the former prisoner, the library worked in complete secrecy from the guards. It was Dita's job to hide the books in a different place each night and provide them discreetly to inmates during the day. 10 forbidden books. The collection was tiny. Alberto Mangle notes in his book The Library at Night. It consisted of 8 books. Among them were Wells' A Brief History of the World, a Russian school textbook, and an analytical work on geometry. Once or twice prisoners managed to sneak in new items, so that the collection grew to 9 or 10 titles. Other texts about this smallest library in the world say that among the less than a dozen books were a treatise by Sigmund Freud, a collection of short stories by the Czech writer Karel Čapek, and a geographical atlas. The books were no fun, Dita Kraus recalls. They were taken care of, however, and they always came back to me safe and sound. In addition to the printed editions, living books were also issued. Older prisoners who knew some of the books well would tell their children about them. Thus, stories of Gulliver's, Robinson Crusoe's, or the Count of Monte Cristo's voyages were repeated. 6 months. With the help of books, Kraus, known as the librarian of Auschwitz, provided prisoners younger than herself with at least the illusion of an ordinary life in the midst of the most horrific horror. She did this even though she herself knew that she was almost certain to die. The prisoners were held in the family unit for only 6 months. Then they were sent to the gas chambers. Only a few escaped extermination. Among the lucky ones were Dita Kraus and her mother. The Nazi death doctor, Joseph Mengele, personally deemed them fit and sent them to the Bergen-Belsen camp in the spring of 1944. Literary interpretation. The smallest library in the world no longer exists. It has been all but forgotten. This was the case until the early 21st century, when the Spanish writer Antonio Iter came into contact with Dita Kraus. He listened to her memoirs and based on them wrote the historical novel La Bibliotecaria de Auschwitz. The book became an international bestseller and has already been translated into 13 languages.